wonderful. Thank you.
Many congratulations. Professor Jagdish Bhagwati have just been conferred upon the TIOL Kautilya Global Award 2023, and we really value his contributions to the field. We would like you to share an acceptance speech on his behalf with us.
Thank you. Thank you first to Mr. Kumar and TIOL for this extraordinary ceremony. And thank you to the 14th President of India, Mr. Ram Nath Kovind, for the honor of your presence. Thank you to my dear cousin Pallavi, my father's niece and a distinguished legal luminary in her own right, for being present to accept this award. And this is in my father's words. I must begin by thanking the TIOL Foundation and the jury that selected me for this year's award. It gives me added pleasure since it follows last year's award to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, my dear friend since the 1950s, when we were both students at St. John's College in Cambridge. Manmohan had a very modest background. His vice chancellor had sent him to Cambridge University, unlike myself and others whose parents were better off and had a tradition of higher education. I recall how Manmohan would take a cold shower in the early morning with open windows in Cambridge's freezing weather. I also recall thinking that this Spartan friend of mine would go very far someday, but little did I think that one day he would be our prime minister. I might add that the Indian students used to showering daily were distressed that they were unable to do so in the college, which did not have enough showering facilities due to the different climate. Our Cambridge tutors therefore typically said, "What do you need showers for when you're in college only for 2 months, each of the 3 terms being only 2 months long?" So the mischievous ones among us made fun of our unwashed tutors, a typical tutor being imagined who fell into the drain at the edge of the road and who declined to be helped, saying, "No thanks, I can swim." A lifetime award such as today's is an occasion to reminisce about the fortuitous circumstances that favored me as my life unfolded since my birth in India on 26th July, 1934. I was born into a distinguished legal family that boasted a Chief Justice of India, my brother Prof, and a father who would have been a Chief Justice as well, but for the fact that my grandfather, an impoverished primary school teacher in Gujarat, had forged my precocious father's birth certificate by 1 year so that he would not waste a year in entering college. What Albert Hirschman has aptly called the principle of hiding hand, which obscures the future implications of our actions, had resulted in my father, who had reached the Indian Supreme Court, from being rewarded with the Chief Justiceship as his true birth date would have entitled him for almost a year. My father portrayed no bitterness at this turn of events. His philosophical acceptance of it was in fact an object lesson for his children, such as myself. In fact, it was among the many lessons that we learned from him, which left us better human beings. My mother, Saraswati, was the backbone of our family. Like most women of her era, and many still today, unfortunately, she was not afforded the opportunity to attend school. And yet she had 7 sons, a sacrifice that my daughter tells me deserves a special kind of sainthood. And along with this full brood of extremely boisterous boys, she also adopted as our sister the orphaned daughter of my parents' relatives. Though she was never educated formally, my mother, through her own remarkable effort, learned Gujarati and read Gujarati literature in the afternoons after she had finished her grueling tasks as householder and full-time mother of 8 children. Since my parents had inherited poverty, not riches, their willingness to extend help to numerous relatives on top of their own children meant that we were raised without luxury or even comfort. We grew up during the time of the independence struggle. And my father, an accomplished lawyer, was keen to contribute to the cause. But if he was arrested, this large family of ours would starve. So my father encouraged his sons to join the independence struggle instead. Since I was only about 7 years old in 1942, that meant that only my 5 elder brothers joined the struggle, all of them imprisoned by the British, while my father remained free and working, and my mother kept our family fed and cared for. We learned through this example that with ingenuity and teamwork, rather than bravado, we could achieve our objectives more effectively. This lesson was reinforced by the emphasis placed by our parents on the education of their children. My parents also instilled in us a sense of tolerance that few parents exhibited. I recall how when I was to leave to study in Cambridge, my father drew me aside and said, "We have been vegetarians, and so you've grown up as one also. But now you are going to be on your own in England, so you have to decide for yourself whether you wish to continue to be a vegetarian." This open attitude was most unusual in contrast with what many other parents were telling their children, urging them to continue in the practices they had been brought up upon. But my father's greatest impact on us came from his example. Having been brought up in poverty, he was generous to a fault. When he was vice chancellor of Benares Hindu University, which followed his retirement from the Supreme Court, he helped many deserving scholars go abroad and distinguish themselves. He also helped others in need. Thus, I was startled when, as a professor in Delhi School of Economics, I received a letter from a BHU graduate asking if I was related to Vice Chancellor Bhagwati of BHU. When I wrote back that he was indeed my father, I received an effusive letter of gratitude. Apparently, when he was young and without any contacts, he had not been given an interview, so he had gone to my father for help, even though he did not know him. My father had seen him and had written to the admissions committee to grant the young man an interview. He had then been admitted. He said, "That act of generosity by your father changed my life." I would be remiss if I did not add some observations addressed to the other remarkable women in my family, my wife, Padma Desai, and my daughter, Anuradha. My wife, Padma, who passed away 1 year ago in New York City, was an unstoppable force for change. She knew from a very young age that she wanted to study abroad, and she never let go of this dream, becoming fluent in Russian and going on to become a world-renowned scholar on the former Soviet Union at Harvard and Columbia universities. She was always humble about her accomplishments and generous with everyone she met, regardless of their status or lot in life. She was an example of kindness and compassion and embodied a relentless commitment to achieving her goals. She was an example in every way for both me and our daughter, Anuradha. She spoke up like a warrior for the rights of the poor, caste oppressed, as well as women and girls, which surely shaped Anuradha's life of service to social justice and our daughter's commitment to empowering women and girls. Padma was the heart and the muscle of our family. I would have been able to accomplish very little without her love and steadfastness. I wish she could have been here with us today, but I know she would be thrilled that our daughter and I could attend this ceremony together, thanks to the miracles of technology, with our dear family on the ground in Delhi and friends around the world, no less. Thank you again for this award.